I want to talk to you about the best podcast hosting sites this year, and I want to give you the most important hosting sites this year in terms of availability, in terms of efficiency, but most importantly, in terms of affordability. So, here are the rankings I want you to think about. The very first podcast hosting site I want to introduce to you is actually Captivate. And what we love about Captivity is you have a lot of features to actually think about. You have calls to action in the podcast player, so that's really good in terms of engagement. You have unlimited team members, so you can share the burden of running your show. So that's kind of cool. Whether you have five folks in your team or 50 folks in your team, you will be really, really pleased with what Captivity has to offer. You can run as many shows as you like under one account and monthly fee. You can run also a private podcast on all payment tiers. So that's kind of cool in terms of let's say if you want to privatize your podcast, or you want to run a small community sort of a podcast, you will love what Captivate has to offer as well. You have extensive listen, subscribe, link options, including attribution links and single promotional links. So that's kind of cool. You have a very well interface, a very well designed interface that is highly customizable and mobile friendly. So you have UX and UI are really, really optimized through Captivate. You have a transcription feature, a WordPress plugin option for connecting to your own website. You have tools to connect and grow your email list. So that's kind of cool if you want to really integrate, let's say, to a MailChimp or Bravo or Aweber or have you. You are able to do that through Captivate. You also have custom trackable attribution links for your sponsorships, social media, or affiliates. You have collections feature, guest booking tool, Captivate. And the cool thing is you also have an audio mastering and dynamic ad insertion. So that's kind of cool. We love that a lot. I mean, you're gonna love the fact that it's also a pretty affordable. Like you can actually pay from $19 per month all the way to $100 per month, depending on the number of downloads that you have. So if you have let's say if you have a small show, you can start with 19 to 25 bucks per month. And so that's if you have up to 30,000 downloads per month. But when you go to 300,000 downloads per month, then you are actually paying about $100. And let's say in between, if you are doing like a mid range 150,000 downloads, you can probably pay like 50 bucks a month. That's kind of cool too. That's really really affordable. If you're thinking about the best podcast hosting sites this year, besides Captivate, I want you to think about Alitu. And Alitu is kind of cool also because Alitu actually gives you an all-in-one sort of dashboard. So you have one login and one subscription fee for everything you need to podcast. And when I say everything you need to podcast, I'm talking about hosting, I'm talking about recording, I'm talking about editing, I'm talking about actually all the post-production, also the ad insertion, also the monetization of your podcast, okay? And in Alitu, you have call recording for remote conversations. You have solo recording. So if you are a solo podcaster, you will love Alitu for that. If you also have podcast editing, just so you can quickly and easily chop out mistakes, all the the whatever, those mistakes. You have text-based podcast editing, so you can edit solo directly from the transcripts. So that's kind of cool. You have episode builder. So episode builder is kind of cool because it helps you actually dissect your entire show and really actually go strong when it comes to storytelling. Okay, you can edit music, transitions, and other segments. You can also merge double-ender recordings from alternative call recording software. So those alt call recording software can really help also. You also have automatic post-production. So what happens here is that Alitu actually does a great job in the background. So your back office is taken care of because the software will clean up your audio, fix the volume levels. So we are speaking here about a volume leveler sort of module, okay? And also Alitu will optimize your sound. And you also have free podcast music library. So if you have been in this industry for a while, there's a big issue when it comes to copyrights when it comes to podcasting. So the fact that Alitu is actually offering you a free podcast music library, that's really good. And you also have auto-generated podcast transcripts. So that's kind of cool, okay? And Alitu is really a well-priced too. So you are looking at somewhere from $25 to $50 per month. Now, if you pay annually, you get 2 months for free, okay? And pricing allows for up to 1,000 total downloads per month, which is typically more than enough for most podcasters. And if you're lucky enough to be getting a few thousands per month, then the cost will be anywhere from like $20 to $30 per month. Okay, that's really good. If you're looking for the best podcast hosting sites this year, I want you to think about Castos. And when you think about Castos, I want you to think about a constellation of very important modules for podcasters. For example, you have a platform that integrates with WordPress via the Seriously Simple Podcasting plugin. This is a very good plugin. I mean, we actually we are preparing a show on that plugin, but it is a very good plugin in the sense that you are able. First of all, it is a WordPress plugin, but you are able to actually integrate everything, the editing, the recording, the hosting, everything through that plugin. Also through Castos, you are able to create unlimited podcasts with no cap on downloads. So, like Captivate and LA2 were kind of playing games with you with by having a limit on the downloads. Castos is not doing that. Okay, you can create unlimited podcasts. There's no cap on downloads. We have built-in episode transcriptions. You also have the option to create private podcasts. So that's kind of cool. If you have a community and you're trying to really privatize, as I think I said this a little earlier, you're trying to privatize your podcast. And let's say you have a podcast that you want to really like you have an interview that you want to share exclusively with some of your community members, right? Especially if you have monetized your community, that's a good option. You also have the option to outsource your editing to Castos Production. So Castos actually is not just software. This is also a production company. So that's kind of cool. I mean, you have the expertise there, right? So you can actually leverage the company's own expertise to sort of make sure your podcast is really, really, really like excellent. In terms of price, you will love that too, because you can podcast on Castos for about $19 a month, $19 to $25. And there are two higher tiers at $49 a month and $99 a month. Now with the middle one, you can republish your show to YouTube, while the higher one lets you host video podcasts. So you have more flexibility on that one. Okay. But the thing is that Castos actually specialized in tools for private or membership podcast and premium content. And this can be run right inside your Castos dashboard and also integrates with the plugin that I said a little earlier. That plugin is really good because it really allows you to have a members only show direct from your WordPress website. So that's kind of cool from a flexibility point of view. That's really good. Castos also has a handy tool in the form of their transcription service. This helps you create a more accessible podcast and offers a text version of every show for a listener revision or even maybe a skimming. Okay, that's kind of cool. If you are thinking about the best podcast hosting sites this year, I want you to think about Transistor FM. And Transistor FM is kind of cool for several reasons. We love the fact that Transistor FM is really, really like a niche down, but also very general in the sense that they actually the software appeals to a lot, like a very swath of the population. And some of the features you will love through Transistor is that you have private podcasting tools built in to create a members only podcast for your members or your company team. So again, going back to the community aspect of things, that's kind of cool. You have a single episode, latest episode, multi-episode, and dark mode players. So again, you are giving directly or indirectly a lot of options to your listeners. So that actually increases the LX, your listener experience. You can publish your show to YouTube automatically if you are trying to expand the reach or the outreach of your show. You can invite multiple team members to manage your show for you. That's kind of cool, especially if you are working in a let's say in a multi environment, like in a multi category environment. And you have inbuilt website that integrates with many email providers: ConvertKit, Aweber, MailChimp, Bravo, and you have a free podcast website builder tool. So that's kind of cool. So Transistor is another host that aims to make things easy and offers all the normal tools a podcaster might need. One area in which Transistor is really great is that they have a private podcast feed feature, and they're also great when it comes to the range of players the software offers. And private podcasting has long been an effective way to monetize your show or to engage an existing community. Imagine running a public show with a premium content option alongside, which your real fans pay for, right? And because they care about your show, so they'll be paying for it, not a problem. And or you can create a community-based show only available for members, or an internal staff podcast which updates your company's team on a weekly basis. So Transistor makes it really easy to run a private show in any form. You simply invite your users, and they do the rest. That's really cool. In terms of cost, let's talk about cost. So you have like $19 to $25 per month for up to 20,000 downloads per month. $45 to $60 per month for up to 100,000 downloads per month, and $99 per month for up to 250,000 downloads per month. So that's really good. As a rough guide, one podcast that you can actually run may have approximately like 10,000 weekly listeners and around 250 episodes, and may get around 10,000 downloads per month. So that's kind of cool. If you're looking for the best podcast hosting sites this year, I want you to think about Buzzsprout. And Buzzsprout is kind of cool in terms of simplicity. If you're looking for a video promotion, if you're looking for a video automation, Buzzsprout is really a great player to really think about. And you will love the fact that Buzzsprout is constantly adding new features, new functionalities to its platform. Okay, an important features you want to note, important set of features you want to note through Buzzsprout include: you have unique listeners stat. So this gives you an estimate of your total listener numbers based on past trends. One of the nicest looking embeddable podcast players around. Multiple episode players available. Transcription feature, so you are actually extending the shelf life of your show through SEO and so forth and so on. You also have magic mastering. This feature helps the inexperienced producer automate his or her sound. You have dynamic ad capabilities to automate elements of editing. You can easily automate video sound bites for sharing onto YouTube and or social, like Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and what have you. You can also add chapter markers right inside the episode interface. So, and the interface when it comes to Buzzsprout is really great. It's really fantastic. Really straightforward, nothing really complicated. In terms of cost, basically, Buzzsprout actually is free. You can upload 2 hours of new content every month. Episodes are deleted after 90 days. So if you want to avoid this sort of inconvenience, you might have to pay for stuff. Okay. And so in terms of paying for stuff, so you have $12 per month. You can upload 3 hours of new content every month. So episodes are actually hosted indefinitely as long as you are on any paid plan. You have $18 per month. Here you can upload 6 hours of new content every month. Episodes are hosted indefinitely as long as once again you are on any paid plan. And you have for $24 per month, you can upload 12 hours of new content every month. Episodes are hosted indefinitely as long as you are on any paid plan. So you can see that Buzzsprout overall is cheaper than some of the other players that I've shared with you into this conversation. So what are the extras here? I've just shared with you the top 5 podcast hosting sites, but I want to show you other great podcast hosting services that you might actually come across. Okay, you have RSS.com. So this is an easy to use podcast hosting platform. It offers unlimited episodes and unlimited downloads with no alteration to audio files. And this software is fully localized in 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Italian as of the date of this show. Okay. And this is kind of cool, which means what? They also offer the company also offers customer support in those 3 languages. And monetization opportunities via sponsorships are available through Podcorn and via dynamic ads insertion. You also have Podbean. Podbean have made huge strides in recent years to actually provide a range of brilliant tools to help podcasters grow and monetize their shows. So that's really good in terms of flexibility. You will love that a lot. You also have Red Circle. So Red Circle actually promises unlimited storage to host your podcast and supports running multiple shows. And its features include the ability to take donations, subscriptions to premium content, cross-promotion with other Red Circle podcasters, dynamic ads, and YouTube distribution. And you also have Spreaker. Spreaker is a podcasting platform that offers a lot more tools than most, with apps for live broadcasting, offline recording, and some parts of production. You can see more about them, and there are, and actually other options in the show that we actually dedicated to the best podcast making apps. Okay. And Spreaker has a great distribution platform which really publishes you to all the main directories without leaving the Spreaker platform. So main directories, we're speaking here about Spotify, Apple, Google, and what have you. And finally, Spreaker has a good monetization option in the form of a dynamic ads insertion if you are happy to outsource the ad content. So that's really good in terms of flexibility. You also have Blueberry, and Blueberry actually is a great tool also that can really help you out in terms of flexibility. You also have Libsyn. So Libsyn is another tool. I mean, they've been around for a while though. You also have Podcast.co. So Podcast.co is another player. You have Acast also. Yeah, podcast. I mean, Acast is really cool, especially in terms of flexibility. You're gonna love their offer. You also have when it comes to podcast hosting sites, of course you have podcast host, but you also have podcast websites. Okay, and podcast websites actually the this is a service built on the Captivate podcast hosting platform. Okay, and basically, but podcast website is a little more expensive though compared to the others. You also have a Simplecast. So Simplecast markets itself as the modern independent podcast hosting and analytics platform. And Simplecast actually offers great start and great stats and sharing options for podcasters like you and me, giving you the tools to help you grow your show and to track the progress of that growth over time. You also have Awusha. So Awusha is actually a French podcast hosting platform, and they actually are in the States now. They are also in Canada. Okay, so this is actually and Awusha has been around for 6 years now. And what you're gonna love about Awusha is that they actually focus a lot on broadcasting native podcasts in French, and also in other French-speaking countries, but also English-speaking countries. So you have a lot of possibilities to actually think about when it comes to making your choices. So you also have co-host. Okay, co-host is actually a podcast hosting platform for brands and agencies. So this is a good possibility, especially if you are thinking about let's say diversifying your sources of hosting this year. So this is something to really think about, especially if you're thinking about scaling over time. Let me give you a few general considerations here. So when you think about the best podcast hosting sites, another question you got to ask yourself is, do you want to go the free route? In other words, do you want to give free podcasting hosting? Do you want to give free podcast hosting actually a try, right? Is it a good idea in the first place? Well, yes, there can be a place for free podcast hosting as long as you know the downsides and the whole process suits the stage where you are, the stage you are at. Using a free hosting platform can be a decent way to test the waters when you are starting out. Podcasting isn't really for everyone after all. So being able to try out the medium for a month or more for free can be nice. But you know what they say: if you're not paying, then you are the product, right? The upside is obviously saving some money, but here are the downsides. There are a lot of downsides, by the way. Free podcast hosts often add in advertising for the hosting company or others. The host might add advertising on your podcast websites or players. You have options that the options for analytics or customization tend to be severely limited. You can actually give up a lot of control. Okay, and you also have free podcast hosts can really struggle to monetize and either change their approach rapidly or go out of business. Either way, affecting the show, right? Support can be limited, and free hosting has actually created some podcast piracy issues. So this is an important element to think about, right? You have a lot of players out there who basically are thinking of, or they are following what's happening in the industry, and they're making their moves accordingly. Okay. When you think about podcast hosting, what is it really? Well, podcast hosting does two things. First is the place on the web where you upload your podcast episodes. Second, it generates the RSS feed which you submit to listening platforms. Okay, that's Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, and this is also this when you submit this to listening platforms, the RSS feed also allows people to subscribe to your show. So that's really good. And podcast hosting is generally a subscription service. You sign up for a monthly fee and you can upload your new episode, your new episode files every week. There are a bunch of extra features that come with hosting, such as stats. You have marketing tools, podcast websites, and more. But the basic principle is that it's a place to put your audio files. Okay, so to choose the best podcast for your specific initiative, you have to know exactly what you're looking for and how to really tweak things the other way around, so you can actually really answer the questions for which people come to listen to your podcast. So, in closing to this conversation, I spoke to you about the best podcast hosting sites. We I talked to you about the rankings and finally the extras as well as the general considerations. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.